Ladies and gentlemen, the streets of hip-hop are on fire. Jim Jones, who once walked through Harlem like a king, is reportedly crying after receiving a bombshell so wild and outrageous that even Maury Povich would have screamed, "You are not the father." Or are you sure? Trust me, you are not ready for this one. According to shocking new reports, Chrissy, Jim's longtime partner and reality TV ride or die star, has been involved in the most scandalous incident of the decade. It may or may not have been smuggled out of a courtroom by a dishonest intern with a bad Wi-Fi connection. The courtroom that was supposed to quietly handle yet another celebrity drama suddenly becomes the scene of the most shocking betrayal Harlem has ever witnessed. Jim Jones dips at royalty. Mr. We Fly High isn't flying at all right now. Casey had been hiding a secret child the entire time. Get your popcorn and buckle up because what I'm about to tell you will make Love and Hip Hop look like a Disney movie. This is the scandal of all scandals, and we're diving in. Audacity is the most shocking betrayal in hip-hop to date. Dubious sources close to the situation claim that Jim has simply collapsed under the weight of a reality that no amount of street cred or ice swagger could protect him from. According to reports from what can only be described as the most chaotic court hearing since Cardi B pleaded guilty to throwing shoes at strippers, Chrissy Chrissy, the woman who supported him through label wars, tours, and enough drama, is crying into his Louis Vuitton scarf. The woman whose loyalty was supposed to be unrivaled, and who actually proposed to Jim on national television in what remains one of VH1's most tense moments, has been keeping the biggest secret. Not a side project, a questionable LLC, or even a burner Instagram account. From Jim, the world, and probably even the producers of Love and Hip Hop. I know what you're thinking, but believe me when I say that Jim was surprised during testimony by shocking documents, alleged receipts for text messages, and hold on to your wigs a purported paternity report that featured Chrissy's name on it. The janitor who swept outside the courtroom reportedly overheard everything, but he had eyes and ears everywhere. Jim and Chrissy have been a couple of chaos, from Harlem block parties to Love and Hip Hop. They practically invented the blueprint, for we're toxic, but they make it iconic through breakups, makeups, and on-egg. For those of you too young or living under a rock to remember the Dipset era, bless your millennial hearts, here's the backstory you need to realize just how wild. It was then in what witnesses called the most brutal courtroom clapback in history. According to reports, Cameron slid into the courtroom like a pink mink wearing a Grim Reaper and showed the receipts on Chrissy's alleged betrayal. Cameron reportedly said dramatically, pulling out an envelope as if he were at the Source Awards. The evidence presented claims that Chrissy was secretly involved with another man years prior. Moreover, the man who chose to put gasoline on this already blazing dumpster fire entered the scene once more, missing weddings, matching tattoos, and public arguments that had fans yelling, "Just marry her already." The courtroom apparently erupted like it was the BET Awards and someone announced Beyoncé was pregnant again. You could hear the gasps and stifled sobs, the sound of Jim's entire legacy cracking like a cheap iPhone screen after a bad drop. And that relationship is what our anonymous legal insider claims will explain why my brother Jim has been acting as though he were living in a love story, when in reality he was starring in a daytime soap opera. This is not just some random messy rumor he wore designer sunglasses and muttered to his lawyer, "I can't believe this." If you think the courtroom was rocked by the alleged character assassination in broad daylight, consider how quickly the internet screenshots leaked. Social media was a war zone with TikTok, Twitter, hashtags everywhere, and fake relationship experts who somehow earned a master's degree in Dipset drama all over the place. One Twitter user summed up Chrissy's secret child perfectly. Jim Jones finding out that Chrissy has a secret child is the plot twist we didn't know we needed in 2024. While fans were busy figuring out timelines and doing celebrity paternity math, James disappeared from the public eye during season 3. According to sources, he canceled all appearances, ducked out of a scheduled club hosting gig, and unfollowed Chrissy on Instagram in 2024. Chrissy has remained silent, and not a single post, comment, or peepwitch has only increased the rumors because, as any competent fake news investigator knows, even Cameron, who is usually the king of shady Instagram captions, has kept it low-key. This is where things take a darker turn. The morning after was anything but calm, and by sunrise, the courthouse had transformed into the hottest circus in town, complete with reporters, bloggers, TikTok detectives, and everyone else. The judge slammed the gavel down and said sharply, "We are adjourned until tomorrow morning, when further evidence and witness testimonies will be presented. Surrounded by cameras, friends, and haters, miss a secret this big." This is where the story takes a darker turn. Tensions were at an all-time high when Jim Jones arrived with his legal team, a hoodie pulled over his head, sunglasses on, and a face that said, "One thing, I did not wake up for this, Chrissy." The atmosphere was electric, chaotic, and undeniably messy, just as the internet likes it. Cameron was nowhere to be seen, arriving fashionably late, wearing a bright pink tracksuit, and exuding what could only be described as, "I told you so much" energy. When the court resumed, the judge reminded everyone to keep their. The next shocking revelation came after the prosecution, backed by unnamed sources who allegedly included a bitter ex-friend and a hairstylist who overheard everything and claimed to have unquestionable evidence of Chrissy's alleged double life. Exhibit A allegedly contained leaked private text messages between Chrissy and a man who was only identified in court documents as Mr. X. The documents claimed that Mr. X and Chrissy had reignited an old romance around the time that Jim and Chrissy. The entire courtroom gasped, including Cameron, who raised an eyebrow and said, Jim froze, looking as though he had just been struck by a sledgehammer of betrayal. His lawyers murmured frantically as the prosecution continued to reveal their so-called mountain of evidence, and he spent most of the morning scrolling through his phone as if he was completely bored. The texts were full of cryptic flirtations, discussions of private meetings, and the famous line that sent Twitter into a complete meltdown. According to alleged bank records, Chrissy had been sending large amounts of money every month to a private trust set up in a minor's name. The prosecution argued that Chrissy was supporting a child Jim was not aware of, while the defense argued that the payments were for charitable donations and private family matters. However, the damage had already been done by social media conspiracy theorists on TikTok, who pieced together timelines, compared old Love and Hip Hop episodes, searched for suspicious gaps in Chrissy's Instagram posts, and even attempted to prove resemblance. One TikTok post boldly declared, "Look at that nose. It's genetics, babe." While the circus raged online, Jim sat silently without any tweets, posts, or even a passive-aggressive mood meme. Some fans began posting side-by-side photos of Jim from years ago versus now with captions like, "This man has aged 15 years overnight. Prayers up." The comments were a complete mess, with over 2 million views in less than 8 hours. 8 hours later, a boomerang him drinking tea with the caption, "Patience is everything." As the next witness, a former friend of Chrissy's, who was shielded by Jane Doe's status, testified that Chrissy had allegedly confided in her years earlier. Jane Doe went on to accuse Chrissy of justifying the secrecy by saying, "I couldn't risk him finding out. It would ruin everything about an accident that resulted in a child, and she had no plans to ever tell Jim." The courtroom erupted in applause once more, and the judge struck the gavel twice for the first time since the scandal broke. Jim reportedly looked up and stared straight ahead, his face unblinking, and he was fearful that the truth would destroy not only their relationship, but also their lucrative reality TV deals, endorsements, and public image as the couple. This wasn't just betrayal. The rumors outside the courtroom had escalated into full-fledged media storms, with tabloids screaming headlines, and the baby bombshell that finally revealed Jim Jones's darkest secret. The memes were vicious. One went viral with Jim's famous Fly High video with the caption changed to Cry High, and another with Monis getting young, to the amusement of the public. The defense, clearly shaken, contended that none of the evidence proved anything conclusively, and the alleged texts were removed from the courtroom was abuzz as reporters frantically typed notes. Courtroom sketch artists captured every dramatic reaction, and fans outside were live streaming in the hopes of catching even a shadow of Jim or Chrissy walking. The judge said that more witnesses would be heard the following day, including a potential appearance from Mr. X himself, a former friend who had turned opportunist. The payments were charitable family support. The witness testimony was unreliable, hearsay, and the devil horns were allegedly planning how to turn into 10 new Love and Hip Hop episodes. The world waited for Mr. X to arrive and finally reveal the truth. The media gathered with placards that read, Jim, blink twice if you're okay. Another read, Chrissy had a whole side quest and Jim didn't even get the side mission notification. The media called the court date Judgment Day for the dip's set because Chrissy broke her silence. Jim had to recover from this, and Jim had to leave without saying anything in or out. Cameron followed him, wearing a sly smile that suggested he had one more surprise in store. Then, as if the gods were in control, when the unverified news flashed across everyone's phones that Mr. X was headed to New York to testify, the streets went crazy. According to reports, helicopters were already airborne, security was doubled, and the internet did what it does best. It made wild accusations and predictions. Day 3 of the trial was just hours away, and as the sun set over New York City, the only thing on everyone's mind was whether Jim Jones would lose not just his relationship but his entire legacy. The fans didn't have to wait long because the countdown had started with screenshots and, of course, memes. On the 3rd day of the trial, which was officially renamed the day Mr. X arrived, news vans lined the block, and as the fake experts prepared to flood the courthouse once more, the scandal wasn't slowing down. In fact, it was about to blow up again. The sun rose over Manhattan, but the city felt heavier and darker, as if even the concrete knew what was going to happen. Crowds had already gathered outside the courthouse at dawn, and some people skipped work. Influencers from other states were streaming live from the steps, and reporters were practicing their shocked facial reactions. The crowd gasped as a man in a navy suit and dark glasses appeared, thinking that this might finally be the mysterious Mr. X. The reporters frantically pressed microphones at him, but he simply straightened his tie and went inside. Jim Jones was sitting in the courtroom silently with his lawyers by his side. His hood was gone and his face was bare and exhausted. This was not the bigger picture, though, as the judge called for silence, and the final day of testimony began. The gallery leaned forward as if they were witnessing the fragments of Harlem Hustler's life come apart. The gasps came just as Mr. X, who was about to hear the verdict of a murder trial under oath, confirmed that he had known Chrissy for years, and that their relationship had once been more than just friends. He claimed that during a brief but intense affair many years ago, Chrissy became pregnant and gave birth in secret. He declared that he had respected her wishes, but had always been involved in the child's life from a distance. The courtroom sat in stunned silence as Jim Jones looked up for the first time in hours, and his eyes locked on the man who had told him the truth out of fear that it would ruin their relationship. Relationship and her career, Mr. X then revealed what sent Twitter into a tailspin. He claimed to be the father of the child fiancé had hidden, whispering, "I gave her everything." He said that he and Chrissy had signed a private legal agreement to keep everything secret, including Chrissy's monthly child support payments. There was a document that was allegedly so secret that even Jim's own lawyers were unaware of its existence. And yes, the court had a copy. As soon as the news broke, the crowd outside erupted, and within seconds, either Mr. X's or Jim Jones's trial went viral. Jim left the building at lunchtime, surrounded by security cameras that captured the moment the judge addressed the elephant in the room as proceedings resumed. Meanwhile, back inside, the defense hurried to protest, claiming that the documents were not authenticated, and that Mr. X was pursuing fame, and that everything he had said was a well-crafted lie intended to undermine a well-known couple. But the damage had already been done, and the court of public opinion had already issued its decision. Reality TV producers debated whether to cancel or intensify the next season, and the fallout was happening in real time. At the end of the day, Jim's lawyer asked the judge to grant an emergency adjournment so that they could review the new evidence and prepare a defense against possible criminal charges. Jim Jones, the hip-hop legend, claimed victory as he spiraled into a career crisis, and Chrissy's child bombshell may bring down the Dipset empire. Of course, social media had its own interpretation. A popular TikTok thread called Jim the New, Tristan Thompson of hip-hop, sparked a debate on Twitter about whether Chrissy had been playing the long game for years. Some fans asked for forgiveness, while others said that Jim was done as the courtroom cleared. Jim reportedly stood for a few seconds before departing alone, and Cameron allegedly passed by and laughed under the door. The most dramatic courtroom drama in recent hip-hop history ended abruptly, but the aftershocks had only just begun. The next morning, Jim's social media accounts remained silent, and the Dipset merch store mysteriously went offline. His breath told you that no one knows. Jim heard it or not. She finally broke her silence by posting an enigmatic black square without a caption, which only served to fuel speculation about whether it was an apology, a power move, or a farewell. The story dominated headlines for weeks, and every blogger, podcaster, and couch detective had a theory. Eventually, I didn't have to find out on TMZ because legal experts were weighing in on all media platforms. Could Chrissy be charged with fraud? Could Jim sue for emotional damages? Would Mr. X now seek custody? Fans wondered. There are currently no definitive answers. Chrissy is still silent, Jim is still missing, Cam is still Cam, and the world is still glued to the mess. Do you think Chrissy is the ultimate villain, or is there more to this story? Nobody knows if Jim was caught off guard or if he will Cameron ever grow tired of being the king of petty spoilers because he ignored warning signs. That is definitely just the beginning. There will be more leaks, receipts, and courtroom drama. You won't want to miss it. Please let us know which side you support in the comments section below. Thank you for watching this video. I promise that you'll want to be the first to know when the next bombshell drops. Additionally, don't get too comfortable because this story is far from over. We want to hear your wildest theories in the comments section below.